Hey Google, turn off the music. She's not listening. Hey Google, turn off the music. So here we are again, me, Lanice, here with another video for you guys. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. If you guys have never been to my channel, my name is Lanice. I am a registered nurse in the state of North Carolina, and I make these beautiful videos for you guys, trying to be informative and give you guys a little insight into what it is like to be a registered nurse. Just for those people who are already a registered nurse, maybe have been a registered nurse, are looking to be a registered nurse, or just don't care, but they're just watching my videos to be nosy. But anyways, we won't go there. So again, my name is Lanice, and I do nursing videos, but I also do lifestyle and mental health videos. And now that I got me a cute little puppy, I might start doing puppy videos too. But anyways, today I am here with another nursing video, and today's video I had a special request from one of my subscribers. At least I think she's a subscriber. Not really know if she's a subscriber or she just clicked on the video because she found me through search. Don't know. Either way, I appreciate the view and I appreciate the comment, and I really appreciate the question because it gave me more content, because I am aware of things that you guys would like to know about nursing. So first things first, I am sorry if my lips are chapped and cracking. I didn't put any Vaseline on them, and I don't know anything about makeup. Anyways, so I am here, and today's video will be on the difference between long-term care nursing and hospital nursing. Some of these points might be points that I have already made, and some of them might be new, and all of them might be new if you have not subscribe to my channel. So please subscribe, because I have noticed in my analytics that a lot of people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So I would greatly appreciate if you guys subscribe, because I have finally made it to 500 followers. So I have to thank you guys and shout you guys out for being such amazing people and subscribing. So anyways, I made some points because I was told in one of my videos that I am a ramblering. Yes, rambler. Anyways, I'll go there. And so I made some points to make sure I don't rambler. So you guys, I won't go on and on about stuff that doesn't matter. So I really don't know how I'm gonna break this down, but I do have points, just know that. I will start, I guess I'll just kind of compare the two as I go along. So the things that you will notice in the nursing home is that there is no acuity, basically, for a resident to live or be in long-term care. They have to have chronic disorders or diseases like COPD or congestive heart failure, but they have to be controlled and they have to be chronic. They cannot be anything, they cannot have any acute episodes. So in the hospital, it is just acuity. You come in for something that's acute, that requires medications or care or skills that you cannot find in the nursing home, because they aren't allowed in the nursing home. Once we get you well, we get you out of there and we flip the bed over and we do it again. So flipping the beds over, that is probably the number one difference between the hospital and the long-term care or nursing home, whatever you like to call it. We in the hospital, once we get somebody in, we get them well and they feel like they're able to get out, and the doctors, the physicians feel like they're able to make it on their own, we send them right back out, the bed flips over, and you get a whole new patient. That is something that happens several times in one day. Sometimes you will come into the hospital and you will have, at the beginning of the shift, we have to be there by 6:45. And you will get there at 7 o'clock and you'll have a new patient that just got put in the bed at 6:45. So you're starting your day out with an admission, but you also sometimes you start your day out with some admissions, and you might start out already knowing who plans to be discharged that day. So point number one that I would like to make, these are not in any certain order, but the first point I want to make is that you will see multiple people come in and out of the hospital on your shift in a day. Some days you have no discharges, no admissions. Some days you have 5 discharges, 2 admissions. Well, if you have 5 discharges, you better believe they're going to fill those beds up ASAP. So if you have 5 discharges, you're going to have 5 admissions, because first of all, right now, the hospitals are full, which means that people coming into the emergency room, there's more people coming into the emergency rooms than beds that we have empty. We have people in the emergency rooms that require ICU type of care, critical care. And there aren't any beds for them because the ICU beds are full right now. So we have people waiting in the ED that require ICU care, that require cardiac telemetry care, that require orthopedic care, but there are absolutely no beds for them because the hospitals are full. I have not been to a hospital yet where they don't have a code CWAC, which means that the emergency room is full and we don't have beds for those patients. In long-term care, first of all, the only way you are going to discharge a resident in long-term care is if they die or they die. Like, people come to long-term care for long terms. They come in and it's called a nursing home because it is their home now. Of course, we all know that families bring residents into the nursing home because they're no longer able to provide care, or residents are brought to long-term care because they have Alzheimer's, dementia, and that is very hard on caregivers. In long-term care, some of the patients require wound care that have gotten so bad that their families and outside help like home health, it no longer helps them. I'm sorry, you guys, my phone has to be charged, like has to be held a certain way because it has a shortage, so I'm trying to make sure it's charging because I'm gonna go rollerblading later. So yeah, the acuity between the hospital and long-term care is very different. The ratio of admissions and discharges in the hospital, it's equal. You're gonna discharge just as many as admissions that you're gonna get, but we're full. You're never going to have an empty bed in the hospital. In long-term care, you may have an empty bed for a week. You might have empty beds for 2 weeks, because the process of getting someone in a long-term care facility, admitting someone into a long-term care facility, it requires a lot. They have to qualify for it. A lot of people aren't searching for long-term care facilities as much as they're going to the hospital. So you might discharge somebody today and that bed may be empty for a week, maybe 2 weeks, because there are people that are looking for long-term care, but it's not as fast or as soon as in the hospital. So the acuity is different. You will see the same patients every day in long-term care, whereas the hospital, you are going to see so many different patients. You might have the same patients if you work 3 or 4 days in a row, or you work shifts in a row. They normally try to give you those same patients in the day, in those days. However, you may or may not, because they may get discharged at night, and you might have some new admissions, which is another thing. In the hospital, it doesn't matter what day it is, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, or what time it is, whether it's 6 in the morning, 6 in the evening, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the evening. If that bed is empty, they're gonna put somebody in it, and whoever has that empty bed is going to be responsible for the admission. It does not matter what time or day that it is, they're going to fill that bed. Whereas in long-term care, if you have an empty bed and it's a Sunday, you don't have to worry about getting an admission on a Sunday. Sometimes you very rarely have to worry about getting an admission on Saturday, because the admissions person, or the person that is responsible for bringing, getting admissions and making sure they have everything they need and they qualify, is usually there typically just Monday through Friday. Now, I will say that if there is a resident in the nursing home that is sent to the hospital, they will send them back to the nursing home once they, once they qualify to go back to long-term care. So you may have you may have a resident that has already been there to come back on the weekends. Now the hospital doesn't care what day they get rid of people, so if they get rid of this person that was in a long-term care facility on a Sunday, they're going to come back to the long-term care facility. However, the admission process is not as long if they had been there prior to getting sent out to the hospital. So outside of the acuity, outside of the beds turning over, another thing that's very simple that is different from the nursing home I'm gonna switch nursing home and long-term care, guys. They're interchangeable. But another difference would be what you call the people that you take care of. In long-term care, they're called residents because they live there. That is their home. When you are at home and somebody refers to you as the person living in your home, you are called a resident. So that is why they're called residents in long-term care. In the hospital, they're called patients, because they require a lot of damn patience. Okay, no, I'm just being clear. But they're called patients. I honestly don't really know why they're called patients in the hospital, other than, you gotta have a lot of damn patience for these people. But yeah, that's another difference. Very small, but it is a difference. And if you're not already a nurse and you normally, I think I remember this in LPN school, and it might be in the first year of RN school, but I wouldn't know because I transitioned from LPN to RN. But I do remember learning that specifically in LPN school, and I actually think that it may have been a question on the NCLEX, or if it wasn't, it was definitely on a test, because for some reason in the nursing world it is very important to know that someone living in long-term care is a resident. There's a difference. So another difference that I have here is the patient to nurse ratio. In the hospital, on the floor that I work on, they will not allow us to have more than 6 patients. And my floor, I work on a cardiac telemetry floor that is also split into a COVID unit. Both sides of the unit are always full. In my personal opinion, the cardiac telemetry part that doesn't have any COVID patients is a little bit harder, because on that unit in the hospital that I work on, there are 18 beds, and they only put 3 nurses on that hall. So you'll always have 6 patients on that hall, because just do the simple math. Whereas on the COVID side, there are 24 beds, and some days you come in, there's only 4 nurses, so you're gonna have a hell of a day because you're gonna have 6 patients. But a lot of times they try to schedule at least 5 nurses, maybe 6 if you're lucky that day. But they at least try to schedule 5 nurses, so a few people are gonna have 5 patients and somebody's gonna have 4. And then as the day goes by, you guys kind of switch in and out when admissions come, to kind of make things fair on everybody else. Now, just to kind of give you, so we'll also go to COVID, since I brought COVID up. COVID patients in the hospital are extremely sick, and like I said prior in part of the video before, the COVID patients that are in our hospital, some of them require ICU care, but we don't have any free ICU beds. So with that being said, we're on a normal med surge floor, we are getting sicker people. Whereas when I first started on this floor back in October, we didn't have anyone on BiPAPs, we didn't have anyone on OptiFlows, we were not allowed to take anyone that required more than 15 liters of high flow oxygen. But now we're getting BiPAPs, we're getting patients who need OptiFlows, because there aren't, even though in the beginning those were only ICU patients, there aren't any ICU beds. These people have to go somewhere, so they're putting them on basic med surge floors. And so compared to the nursing home, these people aren't as sick. The nursing homes that I have worked in that have COVID patients, they weren't as sick. They may have had a cough, they may need nebulizer treatments. Excuse me. Again, normalized coughing. I promise I don't have COVID. but they don't require much care. They don't have very much acuity. They might have a cough, they might have a little bit of wheezing, but it's nothing that a nebulizer treatment or an inhaler cannot handle. Also, speaking of COVID, in the hospital, more than likely you're going to have the PPE that you need. So that includes gowns, that includes gloves, that includes masks, and that includes shoe covers, hair covers, anything you need to properly protect yourself from catching COVID, goggles, masks, everything. They normally have those things in the hospital, and I have never been in a hospital that has ran out of those things. Now, when COVID first began, I did hear a lot about hospitals running out of proper PPE because they had never had this flood into the hospital system before. So that was going on then. I will say the hospitals that I have worked at since I became an RN haven't had that issue, whereas the nursing homes that I have worked at always have that issue, and that's an issue that you're always going to run into even if COVID wasn't going on. I've worked in nursing homes for several years now, and the nursing home will teach you how to be resourceful, and it will teach you how to improvise, because I don't care what, I have worked in nice nursing homes where they have hallways that have their own cafeteria on each hall. That I have worked in nursing homes where it is shitty. You walk in, it smells like shit. Every patient, I mean, there's beds full of sick patients. Well, not necessarily sick, but people who require a lot of care. And hold on, let me just go ahead and stop this now because my camera is running out of memory, so I'll be right back, guys. Okay, I'm back and I have a little bit more memory. One day I'm going to stop being cheap and I'm just gonna go buy another memory card, or maybe one of you guys can send me one. Just throwing it out there. So like I said, in long-term care, you'll have to learn how to be resourceful. You'll learn how to improvise. I have worked in very nice prestige 3, 5, however many stars is the top amount of stars, and I've worked at some that didn't have any stars, and you'll go on Google and every Google review will be terrible. But no matter which ones I've worked at, they never have had all that you need. They run out of wipes, they run out of clean towels. There was one nursing home I worked in, and I worked night shift, and every single night we would not have towels. There might be one floor that had a good amount of clean towels, and all the other floors would come and steal from that floor. It was to the point to where CNAs were getting towels and bed linen and hiding them from other CNAs, so when they come back to work the next day, they'll have what they need. Like, that's how bad it has been in some facilities I've worked in. So in the hospital, you're gonna have a shit ton of, excuse my French, I'm gonna curse if you watch my videos. I can have a potty mouth at times. I'm trying to clear it up. But in the hospital, I've never even thought of not having enough linen. You're gonna have all the linen in the world. They're gonna come and clean up those rooms. The people that come and clean the rooms and turn the rooms over work 24 hours, just like the nurses do. You never have to worry about having a dirty room. You never have to worry about not having the proper supplies. So that's another difference. A huge difference that I probably should have touched on a long time ago was patient to resident or patient to nurse ratio. Oh, I was actually getting into that earlier. Sorry, I can be a rambler, as somebody called it. But like I said, in the hospital, the floor that I work on, sometimes you'll have 6 patients, sometimes you'll have 5 patients, sometimes you'll be lucky enough to have 4 patients. It doesn't matter however many you have, your day will still be busy because everybody in the hospital has high acuity. Some are higher than others, but everybody is sick, everybody has to be taken care of, everybody has a lot to do. So in the nursing home, I have worked in nursing homes where I have only had maybe 12 to 15 residents on a hall and was responsible for 12 to 15 residents med pass, which still takes a long time. And I've also worked in nursing homes that have a 24 resident to nurse ratio. And another thing that's different in the nursing home is that you have med techs or med aides. I honestly do not really know the difference. From what I know, It's just one, I'm not sure which one it is. One of them is able to like give insulin and the other one is not able to give insulin, but both of them are able to do a med pass. So to kind of get into that, in the hospital, you don't have any med techs or med aides. The nurses are completely responsible for administering medication. So in the nursing home, since you do have such a high resident to nurse ratio, for example, I'm just going to use an example of a nursing home that I worked on before I started working in the hospital. On the floors in the nursing home that I worked at, it was probably like 20 to 20. The floor was split into two hallways. They always called it the high side and the low side. So on the high side, you might have 20 to 24 residents, and on the low side, you're gonna have 20 to 24 residents. A lot of times, nursing homes are extremely short-staffed. So since they're extremely short-staffed, they made a position called a medication aide or a medication tech, that these people, they go to their CNAs, they start off as CNAs. Excuse me, I really need to drink some water. They start off as CNAs, they go and take another class. I'm not sure, I think it might be a month or a couple weeks, and they are able to then pass out medications to help the nurses pass out medications, because in long-term care, the medication pass takes your whole entire shift. So at times I would come in and I would be the nurse on the high side. There would be another nurse responsible for the low side, which makes life a little bit easier in the nursing home because you're only responsible for your side. And there would be days where I would come in and I would be the nurse on the high side, and there would be a medication aide or a medication tech on another side, low side, just for example, which makes life hell. Now, I do appreciate there being someone there to do the medication pass. However, regardless of who's there, the medication pass is going to get done regardless. However, if a nurse is working with a med aide or a med tech, you're responsible for that whole floor. So again, if you are a nurse and there's a nurse on one side and another nurse on the other, you are only responsible for your side. But if you come in and you're working with a medication tech, you're responsible for all 40 to 48 of those residents, because a med tech is not able to assess. A med tech is not, they don't have enough classes, or even though these people are very smart, a lot of times they need to be nurses because they're smarter than some of the nurses I have ever met. However, they don't have the credentials to do the same thing that nurses do. So if you work with a med tech as a nurse, you're still responsible for all the patients that they're passing medication to. They're just responsible for passing out medications. I'll have to do a whole nother video on what it's like working with a med tech, because I will start to ramble over. I'm sorry, I gotta stop picking on this person, but I will. It's very hard working with a med tech. Now in the nursing home, one thing that they're trying to do now, that I have worked in a few nursing homes that'll do this, is they will put, if there's 48 people on the whole side, high side and low side, they will put 2 med techs there. A med tech on the high side, a med tech on the low side, and that will make your life so much easier as a nurse in the nursing home, because you'll only be responsible for administering insulin, doing treatments, and assessing patients. You will not have to do the medication pass. Medication passes in the nursing home require a lot more time than medication passes in the hospital. Now, don't get me wrong, and one reason that is because residents in long-term care get a hell of a lot more medications than they do in the hospital, because one thing they're gonna do when they come to the hospital is they're gonna look at that medication list and they're gonna chop a lot of those medications off, because if their acuity is different, they might need different medications, and they just don't have as many medications in the hospital. I mean, in long-term care, it seems like there are no patients that don't require a lot of medications. So if you're new on that floor or you're coming there as agency, it is going to take you a lot of time to do a medication pass. Most times, even as an experienced nurse, even as a nurse that has worked on the floor, the same floor for months, I would still come in, start my shift at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I still do not get done with my med pass until about 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's an everyday thing. Even knowing all the medications, even another thing is, oh my God, I'm trying not to ramble, but when I think of one point, I come to another. So like I said, you'll have a lot more medications to pass in the nursing home. You'll have a lot more residents to worry about in the nursing home than you do in the hospital. But another thing outside, I just lost my train of thought because I thought at one point. But anyways, if it comes back to me, I will say it, but I'm not. I lost my train of thought there. So I'll go on to the next point. If you're a registered nurse, your position in long-term care, it's gonna be different because you are responsible not only for yourself, your CNAs, but you're also responsible for LPNs, because not to say in a condescending way that RNs are above LPNs, but when it comes to the chain of command, when it comes to the chain of responsibility, RNs hold a hell of a lot more responsibility in long-term care because you're responsible for everybody. There's usually only 1 or 2 RNs that are there in long-term care, and usually RNs in long-term care are floor managers or managers like nurse managers. So you have a lot more responsibility in the nursing home as an RN than you do as an LPN, but you also have more responsibility as an RN in the nursing home than you do in the hospital, because in the hospital everybody has their own assignment and everybody working there is an RN. And here in North Carolina they have phased out LPNs from working in the hospital. So you're only responsible for your 6 patients, whereas in long-term care, you're responsible for almost every resident in the building, regardless of what shift you're working on, because there aren't that many RNs in the building. And I think my thought about the medications is coming back. So in long-term care, back to the medications. In long-term care, like I said, patients will require a lot more medications. But in long-term care, you have a cart, and that cart is full of but that cart is full with medications for that whole entire hallway. So you go to room 1, they require this amount of medication, pop them out, you pop them out, you pop them out, you administer the medication to the resident. Same thing as you go down the line, you're popping them out of a cart. So for 1, that leaves a lot of room for error. For 2, it leaves a lot of room for patients not getting their medications, because in long-term care, you are also responsible for ordering the medications. So there are a lot of nurses, myself, I am very guilty of this too, that don't take the time to order the patient's medications. The patient will be down to the last pill and they won't order the medication from the pharmacy, which means the patient is either gonna not get that pill whenever those pills run out until somebody is nice enough to reorder that medication, or you're gonna end up borrowing that pill from another patient who takes the same amount, who takes that same medication. So people are always constantly running out of medications in long-term care, whereas in the hospital, you pull your medications from Pyxis. You have pharmacy staff, pharmacy techs, pharmacists, all those people in that building who keeps that Pyxis full, and you never, hardly ever have to order a medication or worrying about running out of that medication for a patient. Even if you use the last pill or last suspension for a patient, they have all of that. They keep track of it very closely, and several times a day the Pyxis is being refilled. And even if that Pyxis is not refilled with that medication, you can usually walk to the other side of the hall and get that medication from the other Pyxis. And if you don't, you can send a pharmacist a message on the computer and ask them to send a medication, and down the tubing system they will get you that medication as soon as possible. Whereas, like I said, in the nursing home, residents run out of medications on a daily basis. Residents go without medications that they need on a daily basis, and you are responsible for ordering those medications. And if you're working with, if it's a whole bunch of lazy nurses on that floor, again, i.e. I have been this nurse before. If you have a lot of those nurses on the floor that just keep going and going and don't take the time to notify the pharmacy, those medications will go in order. And also the pharmacy makes runs once, maybe twice a day to the nursing home, and they usually come at the same time, around 3 o'clock in the morning and maybe around like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you don't put that medication order in an early enough time, if you don't put that order in, you will go without that medication maybe a day or two. Whereas again, in the hospital, you'll get it ASAP. Another thing that I kind of touched on before I went back to that point is, in the hospital, RNs are great. They need RNs. RNs are the only type of nurses that they allow to work in the hospital here in North Carolina. It's different for other states. But in order to have a higher position, a managerial level position in the hospital, you have to have a BSN. ADNs, I have never met somebody with the ADN, associate degree in nursing, that's an RN, that is not a floor nurse. In the hospital, every person in a higher up position, they have a BSN. Majority of them have an MSN, a master's in nursing. Now, don't let that discourage you from getting your ADN, because that's a magnificent start. And I'm very proud of my ADN, and it gives me a good boost to want to go back to school and further my education. So don't let that make you feel small at all. But if you do want to become a manager or a team lead or an assistant manager, you have to go back to school. They will not allow you to become one of those without those degrees. But in the nursing home, an RN with an ADN, an RN with a BSN, MSN, you are able to get a higher, you're able to become a floor manager, or you're able to become a DON, director of nurse, with an ADN. So that's another difference between the nursing home and the hospital. Let me see, I got some other points I want to make sure I don't miss them. So controlled medications. Controlled medications in the nursing home is so different from having controlled medications in the hospital. When I say controlled medications, I mean narcotics, anti-anxiety pills like Xanax or Ativan, or or diazepam. Like, the controlled substances are housed differently in the nursing home. In the nursing home, as I stated before, you have a cart. One drawer of the cart is a locked cart. So as a nurse, you're responsible for your keys to your cart, because on your keys, you have a key to that narcotic drawer. Narcotics are counted every time that cart is switched from nurse to nurse or nurse to med aid, whatever. You go through, you have a book that you sign your narcotics out of every time you give them. Again, my memory card is getting full. Be right back. I'm sorry, you guys. This video is becoming very long-winded, but I had a lot of points that I wanted to make, and this video was something that somebody really wanted to see. So back to the point that I was making, narcotics in the nursing home are not as controlled as narcotics in the hospital, and that's because narcotics in the nursing home are counted each day or each shift. Whenever the shift is changed out between nurses, they're counted. Like, you guys unlock the drawer and you go through the drawer and you count the pills. Each time you take a narcotic and you give it to a resident, you sign that narcotic out of a book on a narcotic sheet. So that leaves a lot of error for people to steal pills. We got to be completely honest. There are nurses out here that are also addicted to drugs and they steal pills. Now, a lot of times they do get caught later on down the line, whole nother video. But it's very easy to either mess up. Like, sometimes you might and there have been times that almost every nurse that works in long-term care has done this. You might accidentally pop 2 pills and not realize it. A pill can pop out of the sheet and land inside of the narcotic drawer. So when you guys are counting, you don't notice it, and then all of a sudden you pick up the medication sheets and you see that it's fallen in the bottom of a drawer. You might drop a pill on the floor. Like, so many things can happen to that narcotic, and you're shitted on. You're shitted on. Whereas in the hospital, you have a whole lot of different medications because you have morphine, you have oxy, but all of those medications are very controlled. You can only pull them out of the Pyxis. You have to waste them with another nurse. Whereas in the nursing home, you can have, there are people who will sign out a medication and just tell somebody, hey, sign this out with me, I threw it away, and they won't even see the pill and they'll still sign for it. Whereas in hospital, you have to watch someone waste medications, and you have to also verify by typing your name and number and putting your fingerprint into the Pyxis. So narcotics and controlled substances that's probably one of the major things that I would say is different, because in the nursing home, controlled substances are not as controlled. So another thing that's different in the hospital is that you have a team for everything, just about. So when I say a team, you have a team of IV nurses where they come in and they'll put in IVs if you're not able to get one in a patient or find a vein. You have a wound care team that comes around almost every day and does wound care for patients. When the patients come in, they inspect their skin. If you tell them that a patient has a wound, they're coming in, they will come in, they will address the wound, they will put an order in as to when and how and what you need to do to change the dressing on that wound. You have somebody for everything. The doctors are right there in your face to contact. You have a phone to contact that is just used for contacting people throughout the hospital. So like, you have a pharmacy team, you have so many different teams. You have security, like anything you can think of, there's a team for that. So it pulls a lot of the, I don't want to say responsibility, but it helps your nurses tremendously. You have a treatment team, you have a respiratory therapist, you have everything you need. Whereas in the nursing home, the nurse is completely responsible for all that. As a nurse, you might have a treatment nurse, but 9 times out of 10, that treatment nurse they don't work every day. I've never been to a nursing home where the treatment nurse worked on the weekends. A lot of times the treatment nurses work 12-hour shifts, so they only have to work 30 days a week. So as a nurse, you're responsible for what the respiratory therapist will be responsible for in the nursing home, which means you're responsible for administering inhalers, you're responsible for administering nebulizer treatments, you're responsible for listening to lung sounds and charting all of that. You're responsible for doing, like I said, wound care. You're responsible, very rarely do you see resident in the nursing home needs an IV, but if they do, you're responsible for putting that IV in. You're responsible for making sure that the patients have the medications they need and you order those medications. You are responsible for everything on top of doing your med pass. So the responsibility in the nursing home might not be as hard or as because the acuity is low, but you have to do everything for those residents in the nursing home. So that's another thing that's different. Shift hours in the hospital are different in the nursing home. I have worked at a few nursing homes that allow nurses to work 12-hour shifts. Sometimes if you want overtime, you work a 16-hour shift, but 9 times out of 10, if you work in a nursing home, they're still doing 8-hour shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. That does allow you to get a lot of hours in, because you can work one day 7 to 3, 3 to 11, or 3 to 11, 11 to 7. You can work 16-hour shifts, whereas in the hospital, they only do 12-hour shifts. I have never been to a hospital or spoke to somebody in the hospital that did not work 12-hour shifts, which is, it can be a benefit, because if you don't want to pick up any overtime, you can work your 3 days a week and you'll still be full-time. You can set your schedule up to where you work 6 days in a row and you have 6 days off. So there are benefits to working in each, and there's benefits to working 8-hour shifts and there are benefits to working 12-hour shifts, but that is the major difference that I saw between working in the nursing home and working in the hospital. Another thing that's different is in the hospital, you will, unless you work in a pediatric hospital, you will see patients from 18 to 95. I had a 95-year-old patient the other day, and I've had patients who are 57 years old, 50 years old, 48 years old. They come in all ages, shapes, and sizes, because sickness, everybody, like my grandma said, sickness is for everybody. Sickness is for everybody. Everybody gets sick. Anybody can get sick, but not everybody requires long-term care help. Normally in the nursing home, I see ages between 60. If you have somebody that's in there at 60 years old, they have not taken care of themselves. But normally I see 65, 75, 70 and above, as far as the age range. Whereas in the hospital, you have a slew of people. So yeah, that's you normally have elderly people in long-term cares as opposed to the hospital. Also technology is different. I'm sorry you guys, I'm getting so long-winded, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. Technology in the hospital is so different than technology in the nursing home. As I stated before, in the hospital you have a Pyxis, in the hospital you have a tubing system, in the hospital you have a whole different charting system that is very intricate, very detailed. Whereas in the nursing home, being that you have a lot of people who travel in and out of the nursing home, you have very simple charting systems. So that's something else that's different. Your day-to-day, your shift routine in the hospital is different than in the nursing home, because like I said before, the med pass in the nursing home is a hell of a lot longer than the med pass in the hospital. But don't get me wrong, you're still going to be on your feet all day long in the hospital. Which is one more thing I wanted to point out, was in the nursing home, when I worked 11 to 7, it was chill. It was so chill. I've never worked in a nursing home on night shift that it was not chill. Every now and again, you might have a lot of patients that hit the call bell because they need something to drink, or they want a pain pill, or they need to be changed. But in the hospital, when I work night shift, I've worked night shift a couple times, but I normally work day shift. That's what I prefer in the hospital. The night shift is just as busy as the day shift, again, because you're getting admissions, you're getting discharges. You're just working all night, honestly. Like, there's patients still require medication throughout the night that you're responsible for giving. You still have to chart throughout the night. It's just busy 24/7 in the hospital. Whereas in the nursing home, you can have some chill moments. You can have some days that just drag by, but I've never, knock on wood, that's not wood, but whatever. I have never had a day where, I have had days where the days in the nursing home or the nights in the nursing home just drag by, because it's just slow. You know, you might get done with your med pass and you don't have anything else to do after that. That's rare, but that's just another difference. So as I said, this video was very long-winded, but I hope that I made the points that I needed to make. If there is anything that I may have missed, I ask that you guys let me know. Oh, the major difference, I'm sorry, I don't know how I forgot this. The major difference that I have noticed in the nursing home to the hospital is the pay. I will be honest with you, in the state of North Carolina, if you are a RN in the nursing home, more than likely you're gonna get like $35 an hour. This is in the state of North Carolina, like around $35 an hour starting pay, $33 an hour starting pay. Whereas in the hospital, since everybody's on an equal playing field, everybody is an RN, they're gonna give, some hospitals will give you an extra few dollars, an extra incentive for having prior medical experience, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get paid as much as a nurse would in long-term care. I was making a good amount of money as an LPN in long-term care, almost to where it didn't shift too much when I moved into the hospital, because the hospital just does not pay as much as long-term care. That's a well-known fact. I'm sure that's almost the same states, you know, state to state, countrywide. So that's another point I wanted to make. So if you made it to the end of this video, I want to tell you I completely appreciate it, because I'm almost at like 35-40 minutes in. But I hope that I made all of my points. I hope that this was very informational for you guys. I hope that you have shared it and subscribed and liked, because I mean, like, why would you dislike a video? Like, who has the time to do that? But anyways, like, if you made it to the end, I dearly appreciate it. And I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to my channel, because like I said, in my analytics, I have noticed that a lot of the people that watch my videos, like my videos, comment on my videos, are not subscribed to my channel. So go ahead and click the subscribe button and like the video, hit the bell notification so you can get notifications whenever I post new videos. And again, just to introduce myself on the outro, my name is Lenice, and I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'm out.